I think a lot of people are sleeping on the Broncos. I mean, a lot. And I can't tell you why exactly. The Broncos replaced their QB, which was seen as a weakness, make some budget decisions on a cap strict team that need to be made, and made some slight tweaks to weaker positions such as edge, but people still say we are a worse team and had a bad offseason. I want to break it down and let you know why the Broncos could actually be an entertaining team to watch this year. First, we'll have to look at last year to understand why people are sleeping on them this year. We had a terrible season, except we went 9 and 8, but the season really wasn't that terrible like people say. Now, the Broncos had a weak start, but with a new coach that has a slightly more difficult system, it's understandable. Now, the defensive side of the ball, Broncos started the season terrible, and a bit of it was due to Vance Joseph's play calling, but also just some bad decision making from the Broncos defensive players. But let's look at what the Broncos have done to improve the issues to end up in the playoff hunt around Week 15 last year. And if not for dropping a bad game against the Pats, they could have been in. The Broncos really just took their time to start playing together. The O-line was heavily revamped from the years before, and the defense actually looked a lot better after the first 5 weeks. The Broncos also went on a crazy run during the season to give the fans hope and show that they're not quite a laughingstock. The Broncos finished middle of the pack in scoring on offense after the season, and actually above teams like the Seahawks and Buccaneers. On defense, they would also finish around middle of the pack. During the offseason, the Broncos decided to move on from Russ and draft Bo Nix, pick 12. The whole backlash against the pick is it's a good pick in the second round, but not the first, which I just don't agree with. I think if you've got your guy, you take him, and I've been a huge advocate for Bo Nix since about January of this year. The Broncos also made a trade during the late end of the draft for a late round pick for John Franklin Myers, who is a stud. The fact that the Broncos gave up almost nothing for him was kind of crazy to me. On defense, though, the Broncos would move on from Justin Simmons for a cap, and the safety positions are quite open on Denver. Although bringing in Brandon Jones, hoping he'll be a stud for us, I'm concerned with how well Caden Stearns can play on the other side. The Broncos still have Pat Surtain, but Levi Wallace might be a weaker corner too. And I hope Chris Abrams-Drain develops into a solid cornerback 3 for the Broncos, but we won't see that right away. Recapping the defense, the Broncos didn't do a great job getting pressure to the quarterback last year, but we added John Franklin Myers and drafted Jonah Ellis to hopefully fix that problem. On offense, it took time for them to get used to the system, but they also improved their wide receiver core this year by adding Josh Reynolds and drafting Troy Franklin. The second round pick, Marvin Mims, could also step up big this year for the Broncos. I think people are sleeping on them and Sean Payton in general. I've seen people crapping on him, but if the Broncos roster is as bad as people are making it out to be, then finishing 9 and 8 last year is a huge accomplishment. I don't understand the bottom 3 projections, nor the drafting Shadur next year if that happens. It is a year out, so I try to steer away from looking at those, but man is it dumb.